Good morning, everyone. Here we go, our lesson 10. The energy involves in chemical reaction. The four major steps in conversion of energy to electricity is energy from bond-breaking and formation in fuels is converted to heat energy. This step is not necessary if power generation that does not require burning of fuels. For example, the geothermal and the hydrothermal plants or power plants. Number 2, heat energy is used to convert water to steam, which has kinetic energy. Steam's kinetic energy becomes mechanical energy that makes turbines turn. Mechanical energy from the turbines create electricity via electromagnetism. Heat is the most vital component in order to convert energy to electricity. So kapag nagkaroon na tayo ng initial energy, it will compromise into heat energy, then it will turn to steam. So the steam's kinetic energy becomes the mechanical energy that will make the turbines turn. So in that way, when the turbines turn, electricity will be disseminated all throughout from the power source. So our main lesson, not all chemical reactions occur at room temperature. Some reactions require the addition of heat or the absorption of heat from its surroundings. So when we say that if heat is being absorbed, it is called the endothermic reactions. So the examples of endothermic reactions are photosynthesis. So in photosynthesis, the heat from the sun was absorbed by the leaves of the plants. Cooking of egg and cold packs. Cold packs work when the chemical compound ammonium nitrate mixes with water and absorbs the heat from the surroundings, thereby making it cold. So the reactions that produce heat are called exothermic reactions. Absorbs heat, endothermic, and the reactions which produces heat is called exothermic reaction. Examples of this include cellular respiration, combustion of fuels, and hot packs. Hot packs usually has magnesium sulfate or calcium chloride. So the reaction of either ionic salts when mixed with water gives off heat. This is common in spa. They are using hot packs to produce heat because when hot packs was wet with water, it will produce heat or a steam. So other sources of energy, we have chemical energy from biochemical and chemical processes. They are involved in some of the alternative sources of energy. So different sources such as fossil fuels, biomass, batteries, and solar cells are some of these. Other sources of energy also include geothermal and hydrothermal. So let us go with the non-renewable resources. The first one is the fossil fuels. They are mainly coal, crude oil, and natural gas from the remains of fossilized organic remains. Large amount of natural gas have been found in some parts of the Philippines such as Isabela and Palawan. Later on of this discussion, I will draw or describe how fossil fuels has become a energy source. The energy that comes from fossil fuels came from the sun through the process of photosynthesis when the prehistoric plants were still alive. Fossil fuels are captured sunlight. So the formation of fossil fuels is due to a series of geologic processes where the remains of organic life are accumulated in the ocean bottom and are buried to eventually become part of the geosphere. So what is the geosphere? It is the lithosphere or the land sphere of the earth. They are buried deep to depths having high temperature and pressure where they are converted to oil, natural gas, or coal. In the Philippines, around 69% of our electricity is derived from fossil fuels. We have coal, oil, natural gas, and biomass. In the world, around 75% of our energy is generated by combustion of fossil fuels. Power plants burn fossil fuels, and the heat generated during this process is used to turn water into steam, and this turns the turbines. The general reaction for the combustion of hydrocarbon is hydrocarbon plus oxygen yields to carbon dioxide and water. So, combustion, as I've said earlier, is an exothermic process, and methane is a common natural gas. These are present in the decaying garbages, in smokes from the car, or even our fart. It contains methane gas. So, an example of combustion of methane gas can be seen below. Methane plus oxygen gas yields to carbon dioxide and water plus energy. So, as seen from the chemical reaction, burning fossil fuels produces carbon dioxide, which is harmful to our environment in huge amounts. So, to neutralize the amount of carbon dioxide, it is better for us to plant trees. Therefore, there would be a exchange of gases from humans and plants. So, this is one of the biggest downside of using fossil fuels. The emission from fossil fuel power plants also cause acid rain and global scale pollution by elements such as mercury. Fossil fuels is not a sustainable energy source. That's why it belong to the non-renewable resources, because we have limited resources when it comes to fossil fuels. The next one is biomass. It refers to the biological substances that can be useful as fuel. It is usually acquired from agricultural crops and residual waste, sewage, solid waste, animal waste, and residues, such as industrial residue as well as forestry crops and residue. So that biological substances can be converted as fuel. Biomass refers to organic matter from plants and animals or even microorganisms. So plants get their energy from the sun through the process of photosynthesis, which in turn gives energy to animals upon consumption. So we have the producers and the consumers. Waste such as scrap remains, manure, and garbage are good sources of biomass. Wood is also a biomass fuel. So these are one of the examples of biological substances. As long as we replenish the trees that we cut, biomass can be a sustainable energy source. But then, due to illegal logging and cutting of trees, this can be said as not sustainable energy source. So, biomass is used to create methane and alcohol, which are fuels useful in energy production and in powering automobiles. Production of biogas or biofuels involves the action of microorganisms that break down organic matter in a multi-step process. So, technologies utilizing biomass are continuously evolving in order to improve efficiency. So, this includes biogas and biofuel. So, biogas is mainly composed of carbon dioxide and methane from animal waste and residue, while biofuel, such as bioethanol and biodiesel, are made from agricultural forestry crops. So, biogas is from animal waste and residue, while biofuel is from agricultural and forestry crop residue. So, we have the example of biomass in the Philippines. It includes sugarcane, sweet sorghum, and cassava for bioethanol. Whereas for biodiesel, biomass sources include coconut and palm oil or oil palm. So, what common between biomass and fossil fuels is that energy is produced in the process of combustion. So, an exothermic chemical reaction using oxygen and the carbon-based fuel that produces carbon dioxide, water, and oxygen. If the end product is carbon dioxide, water, and energy, or carbon dioxide, and water, it is a combustion reaction. So batteries, on the other hand, use electrochemical energy from the reduction, oxidation, or redox reaction of the different chemicals found inside a battery. The difference in the potential energy of these chemicals results in an electrical energy that can be used or stored. So electrochemical batteries. Batteries give electricity via an electrochemical reaction, and it has three main parts: the anode, the cathode, and the electrolyte. The first battery was invented by Alessandro Volta, an Italian physicist. He presented his paper before the Royal Society in London in 1800s. His invention of the battery propelled studies on electricity, as it allowed scientists to produce electricity. Batteries, compared to other sources, have low intensity, but they are commonly used since they are profitable and efficient. The two main types of battery are primary or disposable battery. The examples of primary batteries are alkaline, mercury, silver oxide, and zinc carbon batteries. Secondary or rechargeable battery. Examples of secondary batteries are lead acid and lithium batteries. Let's go with the renewable resources, the hydrothermal, geothermal, and the solar cell. It involves a combination of different energy transformation from kinetic and thermal energy to mechanical and electrical energy using turbines and photovoltaic cells. So, isa-isahin natin. The first one is geothermal. Geothermal power is the main source of energy in the Visayas region. Around 38% of electricity in Visayas is produced from geothermal power. So, geothermal power utilizes the heat energy from the Earth's crust. So, it is called geothermal because it encapsulates or getting the energy source from the Earth's crust. This heat energy heats up rocks, which in turn heats up nearby groundwater. In some cases, the groundwater becomes so hot that it turns into underground steam. The steam is tapped to drive turbines that generate electricity. Geothermal energy is less of an environmental hazard compared to fossil fuels, though it still has some emissions of carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and sulfur dioxide. Disposal of water is also a concern as it contains some salt. Next is hydroelectric. Hydro means water. So the main energy source is water. So hydroelectric utilizes moving water to turn turbines. This is the main source of electricity in Mindanao, generating around 45% of electricity in the region. Dams are installed in strategic locations where there is a substantial drop in elevation. One of the environmental concerns related to hydroelectric power is displacement of marine species. Next is wind power. Wind has been used in centuries to move ships and pump water. Wind turbines are installed in strategic locations to harness the mechanical energy from wind. So if you are familiar with the windmills in Ilocos. Next is solar cells. We will have access to solar power as long as the sun exists. Solar panels are composed of photovoltaic cells or cells that convert light to electricity. Panels are comprised of two semiconducting metals using silicon layered to create a sandwich. Each sheet is doped so that they can acquire a charge, one positive and one negative. When light shines on the panels, electrons are made to jump out of the free atom, thereby creating electricity. Solar energy is abundant, requires low maintenance, and is environmentally friendly because the sun is always there. Even if it is raining, the sun is still there. Emissions associated with the manufacture of solar panels are present but very minimal compared to pollution caused by burning fossil fuels. So, two of the harmful emissions from the manufacture of solar panels are nitrogen trifluoride and sulfur hexafluoride. So, solar energy is also known as the people's power, referring to the easy deployment of solar panels and the introduction of community solar gardens, where energy is shared among owners. So, some disadvantages of solar energy are that it is expensive, requires rare materials, and requires good amount of space. Thankfully, the technology is continuously improving. Okay, now let us talk about how geothermal energy is being generated. So, the energy from the ground, or the heat from the ground, will be transferred to rocks or even ground water. So the energy absorbed by the rocks and groundwater will be converted to steam to empower turbines. So with that, electricity will be generated. So that is how geothermal power plant manifested the energy coming from the Earth's surface. So if you have any question, feel free to ask in any way that you could do. Okay, that's all for today. Goodbye.